smaller setting than this, as an education session with some participation, but I think I won't try to do that since there's quite a large number of people here, and it is very amazing to see so many people here. But you will get the chance, as was said after this, to ask any questions or to make any comments that you might want to make in a little while. So this session is to look a little bit at what are trade unions and how do they relate to seafarers and their families. And it's one of those sad things in many ways that for me, when I was young, generally people knew what trade unions were, certainly in my country in England. Now, when I ask my children, their generation, if you ask the question, what is a trade union, very often they surprise me and they shock me when they say their friends, when they try and tell their friends what their parents do, their friends have not heard, they don't know what a trade union is. There's much less understanding and much less knowledge of what a trade union is. So I think it's good to go into and explain for people, what is it? What is a trade union? When we're talking about trade unions, what is it that they do? What are they for? So I have those two important questions up first here about what are trade unions, and then the second question, which is also very important, about who pays for trade unions. Because normally, and I was always told, if you want to know about an organisation or understand an organisation, one of the best questions to ask is, where does it get its money from? To understand where it gets its money from, you can probably understand quite a lot of something about that organisation. So hopefully people here do understand what trade unions are, but I shouldn't necessarily assume that everybody does. So I'm using this working definition here. Trade unions in the Philippines have been here for many, many years, certainly for over 100 years. And they result from when workers in their workplace realise that they're going to get farther, they're going to get things done better if they work together and support each other than if they just try and tackle their problems alone. So a trade union is when workers come together collectively to improve their working conditions and their rights. And it's that collectivity that is at the heart of trade unionism. And to answer the second question that we had there, which is where do the trade unions get their money? Well, it's from themselves, it's from their members. Trade union members, they pay dues. When you have a collective agreement, hopefully your union dues are taken out of your pay packet and sent to your trade union. So the money that the trade union gets comes from the union dues, your membership fees that you pay when you decide to be a member of a trade union, and that pays for the services that you get. So it's your organisation because you have paid for it. And that's a very important element. So if you've paid this money, you paid your membership dues, what do you get from a trade union? What does a trade union do for people? And I think in some of the presentations that have been made already, including the last one about women, indicate some of the things that you get from a trade union. You get representation to employers. If you have a problem with your boss, if you haven't been paid your wages, if you've been injured, it can be very difficult to tackle these issues on your own. And your trade union, which your dues paid for, get someone to help you do that, to talk to the employer, to get a better deal for your wages, to get a better contract of employment. And if something goes wrong, to talk and negotiate with the employer on behalf not just of you, but everybody in the workplace. So representation is that key core element of what a trade union does for its members. But it can do more than that. A trade union puts pressure on the government, or even on international bodies. And we've touched on the kind of issues that can involve already today. We talked about the ILO Convention, the Maritime Labour Convention. Those conventions don't just happen. They happen because people work to make them happen. The Maritime Labour Convention involved a lot of work by a lot of trade unions, and not just trade unions, also the industry itself. Some of the ship owners, some of the ship owner federations also understand the advantage of having everybody on a level playing field, of everybody having the same level of obligations in the industry to their employers, who have been prepared to work with us and work with us with governments to get a better deal for seafarers. And in an international industry, like the shipping industry, those kind of things have to be done at an international level as well as a national level. And that's where my organisation, the International Transport Workers Federation, comes in, because we coordinate trade unions around the world to exert pressure to try and get these international improvements. But what else does an ordinary union member get from their trade union? They should get information. They should be able to understand their rights better. Their union can provide them with information about their industry, the industry that they work in. It can provide them information about what the future prospects of their work is, about what's happening to their company, and about what's happening in the union itself. So it can keep the member informed. It can go even more than that. Many unions now will provide training for their members about how to be a better trade unionist, and even about how to do their job better. The trade union has another important task in defending health and safety standards. Again, if we look at seafaring, we're looking at one of the most dangerous industries in the world, and you're working in a dangerous workplace at sea, very far from where there's a health and safety inspector who can just come along and put things right. But knowing the law, knowing what international standards apply, knowing about health and safety, again, is something that your union can help you with, and in your workplace can again challenge the employer in health and safety standards are not up to scratch. The union can help you with legal assistance. Again, for a seafarer, you're injured in one country. The company that did it, you were injured inside a port somewhere by a container. Who owned the container? Whose jurisdiction applies to deal with the case for your injury? What happens when you get back home to the Philippines? Legal assistance is very important for trade unions. And legal assistance is very important for union members being able to claim their proper due rights and to be treated fairly. Some trade unions also, I think again, if you go and see in the tents, as I'm sure all of us have in the exhibitions, they provide a number of other services. Housing services, I think that's been on show here today. Medical care, extra medical care can be often provided by trade unions. International support I've already talked about, and it's something that we're very proud of in the ITF. We have unions now in around 120 countries around the world. So if you're a seafarer, there's very few countries that you will sail to where the ITF isn't present. And in many countries, the ITF has what it calls inspectors. These are people who are employed in the ports to go on board ships, to go and check the conditions, to go and talk to the captain, to go and talk to the crew, to check that the crew have been treated properly, that their conditions are okay, that their food is up to scratch, and to check that they've been paid, and to check if they have any grievances. And that's the day-to-day job of something like 140 ITF inspectors in ports around the world. If they hit up problems, they will talk to the shipping company. They will try and get those problems sorted out. And if a shipping company doesn't cooperate on that, then they will try and take some more drastic action in terms of getting that ship maybe held up in port until something gets sorted out, to get proper, just grievances addressed. But also, what you get from your trade union is your voice. Your voice gets made louder. One voice alone to an employer isn't very loud, but everybody's voice together can be a very loud voice indeed. So it helps us combine together to have a stronger voice with our employees. But also, your voice needs to be heard inside the union itself. As a union member, you need to make sure that your views are heard inside your trade union. And the trouble with lists like this is that you always left something off the list. And I'm sure that there are many other services that trade unions provide to their members which are not on this list, and you can probably think of many. So these are just some examples of the reasons why it's good to be in a trade union, especially when you're in a vulnerable industry, especially when you're very isolated in your workplace as you are when you work at sea. But trade unions are not just about what you get from the trade union. It's also about what you put into the trade union. Trade union is not like an insurance company. You pay a premium and then if something goes wrong, then you get a service. At times it can seem like that, and trade unions provide very good services, but unions are much more than that. They are about what you also put back into the organisation. So what do you put into a trade union if you're a trade union member? If you're a union member, you should be helping getting more workers into the trade union. You should be explaining to them the benefits of trade union membership. As a union member, you should be a PR agent for the trade union, letting people know the advantages of being into a trade union, not just so that you bring more union dues into the union, but you make it stronger. Unions are only as strong as the numbers and the activism of the members that they have. So as a responsible union member, you also need to keep yourself informed. Your union will generally have publications. Read those publications. They tell you about things that are useful for you to know. You could not understand the concept of an address. You couldn't actually go in a car and drive to it. But we and our generation understand, and our children's generation understand these things much better. That you don't need a car to go to this address. And we have an address, I have an address for you now. This is the ITF's own Seafarers address. We've recently set up a website, www.itfseafarers.org, and there we put on a lot of information that's useful for seafarers, a lot of contacts that are useful for you to have, and we also want to hear from you as seafarers to know your problems, to feed back into that website through your blogs and all these various things that you can do to let us know the real situation of your lives. So in this day and age, there is absolutely no reason why you shouldn't know about your union, its policies, why you shouldn't know about your industry, why you shouldn't know about the ITF and what's happening at a global level. There's no reason why your union shouldn't know about your problems. It is easier to communicate